So that's what the Apostle Paul is doing. Let's go to another view. The Stoic Supreme Being is an omnipotent planner, is the omnipotent planner, design of everything that happens. Let's look at that word omnipotent. Omnipotent. On our etymology, once again, it's omnipotence. I'll go to that definition. It says Latin omnipotentia, etymon, okay, almighty power. So that's basically what it means. Alright? Omnis is all, potens means powerful. Now, let's see that in the scriptures? Yeah. Revelation 19:6. And I heard as it were the voice of a great multitude, and as the voice of many waters, and as a voice of mighty thunderings, saying, Alleluia, for the Lord power omnipotent reigneth. See? Most High Yahweh Shem Yahshua. Most High Yahweh Shem Yahshua. Now it says the Stoic Supreme Being is absolutely good. Whatever happens, happens for a good reason. Well, yeah, you're right. It does happen for a good reason. Like if a nigga get hit by a bus, that's for a good reason. That's for his fucking demise. Because nigga was wicked as hell. The Stoic Supreme Being wills that we should obey moral principles. And that's basically it. It's a couple more where they go off. Like it says, the Stoic Supreme Being is unlike God and what I have called the traditional view. The Stoic Supreme Being is not the only deity, since there are also lesser deities, which that's off. The scripture tell you there's only one God, the Most High, Yahweh Shem Yahshua. The Stoic Supreme Being is eminent, not transcendent. The Stoic Supreme Being, or divine reason, is a body. So now you understood the similarities and differences. How the Stoics believed that their God was omnipotent, eminent, so on and so forth. Now let's see what Stoic God was it that that they associated. What God, Greek God, was it that what was it that the Stoics associated with God? Because remember, going back to the first webpage, it said by God the Stoics meant primarily the eminent principle governing the world. Variously, eminent meaning to dwell in, and governing meaning to rule or direct, governing the world. Variously also identify with creative fire and with nature or with fate. Second, the world itself was also called God, but characteristically of Greek religious thought, this apparent monotheism did not exclude polytheism. Individual cosmic masses were identified with individual gods. So the Stoics, so the Greeks had different cosmic masses that were associated with individual gods. And it says, for example, the sea and air were linked with Poseidon and Hera. So what Greek god could be associated with an attribute that dwells in all. Let's go to this page. It's called markmore.org, right? Stoic Epicureans. And on the webpage, and it speaks about the differences and similarities in different philosophies like Stoicism, Epicurean, and so forth. This is one of the major beliefs of the Stoics. It says, number one, the world was created by Zeus. So Zeus was the god that the Stoics had compared with pervading all and dwelling in its creation. Now here's a man named Cleanthes, 331 BC to 232 BC. It says he was a disciple of Zeno the Stoic. Zeno was the creator of Stoic philosophy. He considered the universe a living being and said that God was the soul of the universe and the sun is his heart. I'll read the poem. It says Cleanthes' hymn to Zeus. It says, most glorious of the immortals, invoked by many names, ever all-powerful Zeus, the first cause of nature who rules all things with law. Then we just go to that, it said, governs all, right? Hail, it is right for mortals to call upon you, since from you we have our being. We whose lot it is to be God's image, we alone of all mortal creatures that live and move upon the earth. Accordingly, I will praise you with my hymn, and never sing of your might. The whole universe spinning around the earth, likewise wherever you lead it, and is willingly guided by you. So great is the servant which you hold in your invincible hands, your eternal two-edged lightning forked thunderbolt. By its strokes all the works of nature came to be established. And with it you guide the universe, the universal word of reason which moves through all creation. See? Mingling with the great sun and the small stars. O God, without you nothing comes to be on earth, neither in the region of the heavenly poles nor in the sea, except what evil men do in their folly. But you know how to make extraordinary things suitable and how to bring order forth from chaos, and even that which is unlovely is lovely to you. For thus you have joined all things, the good with the bad, into one, so that the eternal word of all came to be one. This word, however, evil mortals flee poor riches, though they are desirous of good things for their possession. They neither see nor listen to God's universal law, and yet, if they obey it intelligently, they will have to have the good life. But they are senselessly driven to one after another. Some are eager for fame, no matter how godly it is acquired. Others are set on making money without any orderly principles in their lives, and others are bent on ease and on the pleasures of the life of the body. For they do these foolish things time and again, and are swept along, eagerly defeating all they really wish for. O Zeus, giver of all, shrouded in dark clouds, and holding the vivid bright lightning, rescue men from painful ignorance. Scatter the ignorance far from their hearts to design, it says dying, D-E-I-G-N, to rule all things in justice, so that honor in this way we may render honor to you in return, and sing your deeds unceasingly as befits mortals, for there is no greater glory for men and for gods than to justify praise the universal word of reason. So Zeus was considered a universal word of reason. That's what it was that the Stoics believed governed everything, which is associated with Zeus. That's why when you go back up to the beginning, it says, with it you guide the universal word of reason which moves through all creation. So Zeus was considered to be a god that moved throughout all creation. So what have we understood? Zeus was that god that top god that the Stoics had believed in. Okay? So now you understand that. Wait one moment. I'm going to go to another web page. That web page is called www.utexas.edu. Cleanthes hymn. Cleanthes hymn to Zeus. Now, we'll look at the Epicurean philosophy and see how the Epicurean philosophy dealt with these different things that the Apostle Paul is speaking about. So now we're going to deal with the Epicurean aspect of the beginning of the Acts 17:24, where it said God that made the world and all things therein. Now, Lowell and I do a show just reading about the philosophy of the Epicurean and Stoics and what they believed in, so your brother can understand that better. You know, I was going to get through this. This is that webpage that we went to before, markmore.org. Now, the Apostle Paul and the Stoics had something in common. And one thing that's in common was that the Apostle Paul and the Stoics believed that there was a high power that had created all things. This right here is the Epicurean view. This right here is the Epicurean view. This is Wikipedia. This is Epicureanism, the section that says philosophy. When we jump down about the last two paragraphs, I'll read it. It says, no, let me jump up. You can learn about Epicureanism for a quick second. I'm reading the first 3 sentences. Epicureanism is a system of philosophy based upon the teachings of Epicurus, founded around 307 BC. Epicurus was an atomic materialist, following in the steps of Democritus. We'll get into all of that in further shows. His materialism led him to a general attack on superstition and divine intervention. Let's jump right down to the point to the section that I mentioned. It says the Epicureans believed in the existence of gods, but believed that the gods were made of atoms just like anything else. It was thought that the gods were too far away from the earth. That right there automatically sets apart the belief in the Stoic philosophy and the Epicurean philosophy, because they believe that the gods are too far away from the earth. That's called transcendence. Let's look at the word transcendent, see what that means. Transcendent means beyond or above the range of normal or merely physical human experience. That's what they believe that the gods was. They was beyond the humans. In other words, they was too far to be even concerned with what it was that the human beings had done or do. Which the Heavenly Father is transcendent and he's omnipresent. You understand? Right? He is everything. Hence the meaning of his name, Yahweh. It said, it was thought that the gods were too far away from the earth to have any interest in what man was doing, so it did not do any good to pray or to sacrifice to them. The gods, they believed, did not create the universe, nor did they inflict punishment or bestow blessings on anyone. But they were supremely happy. This was the goal to strive for during one's own human life. So the point is that the gods they believed did not create the universe, whereas the Apostle Paul and the Stoics believed that there was a God that created the universe. So you see one aspect. So now you see the ones that ain't gonna get it. So now you see the guys that ain't gonna get it. Paul's discussing with these dudes. You already know the group of guys that ain't gonna get it. These niggas. You know? You already know the group of guys that ain't gonna get it. Now I have another web page to go to. It's called theinformationphilosopher.com, Epicurus. I'm just right down to the point. It says, for similar reasons, I'll start a little bit. It says, like the other physiologoi and physicists, Democritus had replaced the gods and as explanations of phenomena with his deterministic laws of nature in order to give humans more control over their fate and their moral responsibility. For similar reasons, epic chants to provide still more control and more responsibility than physical determinism could provide. Salakia. He said in his letter to Minucius, it is better to follow the myth about the gods than to be a slave of the fate of the physicists, or the former suggests a hope of forgiveness in return for honor, but the latter has once again gone back to what we had read before. It said it's better to follow the myth about the gods than to be a slave of the fate of the physicists, because you had other belief systems like the Epicureans who believed in fate and believed that it was the gods that created everything, and so on and so forth. Now, has another web page you want to go to, which was separate from the Epicurean philosophy. They didn't believe that gods created everything. They didn't believe in fate either. Okay, but we'll get into that later on.